that the OC7 is the best kick drum mic ever invented.
It is.
I would like to believe that I started that
You did.
with Ryan. Well, we
like-
got the microphone and we looked at it. We're like, oh, this is a really cool kick drum microphone. And then we put it up there and we came up to you at AES the next year and we said, yeah, man, that's the best kick drum microphone we've ever heard. And you said, what kick drum microphone? And we said, oh, the OC7. And then you're like, you're using it as a kick mic.
Well, you know what? And I do as well in my studio. So it's very interesting. It's a cool mic because the attack, gives you such a strong impact on the bass drum, and you can still tune it, and it covers with a sound pressure level.
Yeah, see, that's what I love, is it doesn't fold, it holds up very, very well. And then also, as you said, the top end, all the other kick drum microphones out there, I have to add top end to them. Where this one, I get to take away top end. It's already loud and proud, and I can pull it back, and then the low end stays, and it's huge sounding. So, I mean, to be real, it hasn't left our kick drum in, since we had it almost 2 years now.
When the only time we did was for the kick drum shootout.
Yeah.
And then we went right back.
Yep. So it's hands down one. These microphones and the 818s have gotten a ton of use at Make Believe. We have
818's just the stand. That's like forever our mono overhead.
mono drum overhead.
And
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
818 lives on the Mesa.
Yeah.
And if you use it as a mono overhead, have you ever played around with the plugin?
So we have tried a little bit, but we haven't done what I would consider in-depth tests, because we talked about making a video about the actual plugin, and if you would like us to, we will.
Because the fun thing is, if you use it as a mono overhead,
yes,
then you can play with the room in the mixdown. And then, because the plugin, what it does basically, you don't have to decide for a pattern while you record.
okay,
Because you record both capsules.
Yep.
And you know how pattern gets created, right?
yeah, absolutely,
Mixing the two capsules.
100%.
And now you can record both capsules separately.
Yes. So do you need that special cable for that?
It's in the box. Yes, you do. Actually, you have here a second XLR output.
Yeah.
And on the end of the cable, you have then two XLRs, right?
Yes.
And then you record both capsules. And that way, and that's really cool. It's because you mentioned the mono overhead. You can even use it as a pseudo mid-side.
Oh, interesting.
With a stereo creator, we have more than one plugin. You have the Polar Pattern Designer.
Okay.
So there you could only change basically the width of the pattern after the event of the recording, which is cool as well, because if you're in a room that gives you some nice reflections, a good drum room, then you can switch it probably to a figure of 8 and listen what it does to your overhead.
Yeah, you can listen to the other side of it. Yep.
Or you can add a little bit of it.
That's
so you can really play around with the sound after the event of the recording without EQing it, because EQing gives you some phase issues.
Yes.
But with that, it's just a phase linear, playing around with the pattern in the room. So try that. I think you would like it in the mixdown.
Okay, and the easiest way to do that is just to record both those outputs to a stereo track and then insert the plugin as a stereo plugin?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Exactly. You can either use the stereo creator,
Yep.
and that's very interesting because you have then the two capsules. Yep. If you position it a little bit 90 degrees to the source, you can actually use it as a pseudo mid-side recording.
You're talking about putting it up,
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
With one mic.
One mic.
So that's pretty cool.
Okay, so we'll definitely go do some tests on that, because we've been loving that microphone. And so, Bern was just telling us that this is the new thing you got going on here. Yep. So the CC8, we haven't tried this microphone yet, but this has been out for a minute, right?
This is out for quite a while. So that is our really high-end pencil mic. Uses our CC8 capsule, CC7, which is again our own design and Vienna made.
So these are made in-house in Vienna.
Everything what you see here is made in Vienna.
That's amazing.
Everything. From the membrane inside the capsule to the microphones, we're making it all in Vienna.
That's awesome. How long would you say that it takes, a capsule like this to be produced?
Basically, I would say it's two steps.
Yep.
The one thing is do the membranes. These are the large membranes. So these are from the 818s and so that's the 1-inch membrane. But you can imagine that the half-inch would look similar but smaller, right?
And this is a gold sputtered capsule?
Gold spotted as well, yeah. So that's the first step. That's made by basically one lady and a few measurement instruments. Yeah. So the membranes get tensed.
Okay.
Yeah. On the rings, and then of course we have laser measurement because you have to have the tension equally over the whole surface. And this needs to dry and this needs to pause before you can then build the membranes into the capsules. And this is done by a second lady in a separate step.
Okay.
Yeah, but so that's our assembly line. It's basically two
Two
ladies.
ladies. Two
yeah,
ladies. Okay.
working on these capsules.
How many capsules are you trying to turn out a day?
In a day, I would say it would be roughly 20 capsules.
So do you have 4 ladies, one for the large diaphragm and one for the small diaphragm?
No, we're doing it in batches.
Okay.
So we basically have 2 specialized ladies.
Yeah.
Well, we have 3.
Yeah.
And they switch because we have other assembly stuff to do. And, you have to assemble all the mics, you have to solder, But basically, we have 3 specialized ladies on capsules.
Yeah.
And they would do a batch of smalls. And then when we have enough of these, they would do a batch of the large.
So how many people is it over at Austrian Audio?
In total, we have 50 people.
50?
Yeah.
See, I love hearing stuff like that. You guys are clearly dedicated, and if you wouldn't mind, if we could go back a little bit. I know we're here to talk about this beautiful new microphone, but I love what I know of the story of Austrian Audio, which is that, Harman bought out the AKG factory, right? And you guys...
That's even one step earlier. Basically, when there was Sydney,
Yep.
he is an audiophile. He was an audiophile. He was in the company until the age of 93, I think.
Okay.
And he really was dedicated to create great audio products. And he bought companies around the globe that did great audio stuff. In Vienna, it was AKG. It was Soundcraft in London, Studer in Switzerland, JBL in Americas, Lexicon, DBX. All top brands, all globally among the top 3.
Yeah.
But then, when he passed away and the whole thing went a little bit more into a different direction, automotive became a very large part of this group.
Yes.
Even more important than pro audio, significantly large. Then, of course, there was this interest, and I don't know, the whole Harman group was sold to Samsung. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't.
So now all the Harman group belongs to Samsung, so the Korean guys, and they are mainly focusing on automotive. Right, and that was the day in 2017 when all the pro companies were closed down. Not only AKG, Soundcraft, DBX, Studer, Lexicon, PSS, all closed down, and all the R&D folks were let go. So we decided to regroup in Vienna, actually on the same furniture, with the same people, and restart the microphone company under the new name Austrian Audio. So that's the history.
So when that happened, were you guys able to acquire some of the equipment that you had already been working on, or did you retool a whole new factory?
Basically, secondly. So basically, we had to redo it from scratch. But yes, we kept all the people, and B, yes, for example, we acquired the whole anechoic chamber, because that's one of the very important and expensive parts to measure and develop new stuff. And then, some measurement stuff we could acquire, because basically the whole group moved out of Austria. There's no Harman employee in Austria anymore. So yes, we took most of that stuff over. But of course, we also had to add new stuff because it's technology moves on.
And you guys are clearly building different products than AKG did.
Well, there is no reason to do the same thing again.
No. And what you guys build it, I feel pro audio is weird, because for as much as people want to believe that they want innovation, everybody wants tradition. They talk about how they want a new guitar, but then they go and buy a 1959 Les Paul, and they do it every day, every year.
I love that you saying that, not me.
Yeah. And what I love about what you guys do is this feels good and it feels new when I use it. There's a whole new ground to break with them, but you can say, oh, in tradition, this can harken back to a 414. And everyone wants to ask me about this. Does this sound like a 414? And we've done a direct comparison. It does not sound like a 414 to me.
Well, may I ask you which 414s you're comparing it to?
Well, we compared it to a EB with a CK12, and then we also compared it to a BULS. And you know, in my mind, those are the two schools of 414, the bright and the dark. And you know, they kind of went from there, even to the point where AKG at the end of it, they were producing a bright and dark 4414, and they said the TL or whatever was
TL2 and
was for vocals, or it was just bright, you know. And in my mind, this is not as bright as an EB, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have air. You know, this microphone reminds me more of what I would think people believe a U87 should sound like. And that's
without that extensive mids.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, because the U87 sounds chalky and mid-rangey and shitty and weird, where this sounds big and warm and smoky, but doesn't have that.
That was the intention. Exactly, that was it. And
see, I didn't know that, you know.
And if you read our mission statement, right, you will read, yes, we honor tradition, we honor vintage sound, but we have to bring it into a new century.
Absolutely.
And that's why we said we will not do Me Too products. For example, that we added to an 818 a second output, that you can choose the pattern after the event of the recording. That may sound weird, but it helps, it saves you in so many situations. I mean, if you are in your recording room, where you know the room, where you know any reflections, that's fine. But how many recordings are really done in recording studios anymore? You record on live events. You record in rooms where you haven't been before. But you should choose the amount of room you allow into your recording without knowing what you really allow. And now you can choose that after the event of the recording, because you can mix the two capsules and hence change the pattern after the event of the recording. So you listen at the down mix. Okay, which of the frequency responses of the room were nice? I keep them. But which ones I don't like so much? So in this frequency range, I make it a supercard yet. But for example, in another frequency range, I like the response of the room and I keep it an Omni or a figure of 8 because I like the rare side reflections. That's something nobody has done before, right? Yeah. So we try to bring traditional sound into a, let me call it, digital workflow, despite there is no digital in the audio path.
No. And you know, when I think of that, just so where my head goes, because, you know, I've seen the plugin and I've messed around. It was just the first day that we got it, though, because traditionally I get something like this. I'm like, oh, let's go to work. Let's try and use it. But what I love about the dual output of this, and where my head instantly went, and where, you know, I haven't been able to use it, but I know it's going to be perfect when I do, is recording two people on the same microphone. Like when you go to do that duet recording on a video and you put that microphone up and they're both singing in two sides of it, and you got the cable coming down and you got the ability to have access to both sides of the capsules after the fact. That is the future. That's the sort of shit that you wish you could do.
Well, actually, without plugin, you can even automate it in your mix down. So you can change the balance during the mix and automate it.
Yes. So you can pull, if someone's walking around, stepping back from the microphone, you can pull them down.
And you can correct it.
Yep. See, and that's very cool, and I love that you guys are a forward-thinking company that is steeped in tradition and history, and I love that, what my ears tell me about this stuff is clearly in line with what I think you guys are trying to do.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Well, actually, again, that's why I think we can't get rid of our heritage, and we don't want to, actually.
No.
Because that's why we have people in the house. I mean, I added it up with more than 400 years in experience, what they do, right? That's great. Yeah. But we can't stay there because we are a new company and we want to go into the future rather than looking always back into where we come from. That's great. And that's in our genes and that's in our DNA. But that's what we have anyway. Now let's use that and create new stuff that really fits into a modern production world.
So with the new stuff, tell us about this. What makes this special compared to this besides the polar pattern?
Well, actually, in this case, it is what it is. It's the polar pattern. And it's, if you are into orchestral recordings, you are sometimes particularly needing a very narrow pencil mic. Yes. So And as we are not doing modular, because, and I'm very open and honest on that, to do a modular pencil version makes you pay for a lot of mechanics that you probably don't need, right? So we create now, next to the carded, the super carded, especially for string sections, when you're recording in an orchestra, you would need a hyper carded or super carded version.
Okay.
I mean, you might need an Omni as well, and it might happen that we do an Omni version of it as well.
Yes.
Might happen.
Okay. I see where this is going. I have a question. Are you guys intending to do, so, not to throw back to the legacy of another company here by any means, but when I think of, cardioid, supercardioid, Omni microphones, there's always another one from this kit of, microphones that's out there, which is the cardioid with the bass reduced capsule. Are you intending to do anything like that at all?
Actually, thanks for the idea. No, we haven't had that on our roadmap so far.
Yeah, so it's the KM86.
Yeah.
Actually one of my favorite microphones out there.
Okay.
And one, I love them because you can usually find them cheaper, like $1,000 cheaper than an 84. But two, because it's cardioid and because the low end is rolled off, it's pretty much just undoes the proximity effect, and you can get it close as shit to stuff, and it's great. I really like that mic.
It doesn't really undo the proximity effect. It just doesn't give you that much low end, so the proximity effect would not be that obvious.
Exactly. The proximity effect is probably exactly the same as the capsule buildup because you can't really get rid of that. It's just, there's less low end in the microphone. So.
Yeah. But a question, I mean, I'm always open to suggestions, but what for would you use that mainly?
I use it for kick drum.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a very, it's an interesting thing. So if you go and look...
Why would the proximity effect be an issue on the kick drum?
It's just a different sound. When I use when I use the KM84, I feel like it gets weird and I have to go after using EQ. Where when I use this one, it's like a very big punchy sound. And most people don't think of using a microphone like this on the kick drum. But there's this sound from the 70s, like the Funky Drummer, for example. That's a KM84 on the kick drum. The Jackson 5 stuff, those are KM86s on the kick drum. So for me, this is where I ended up. This is my permanent kick drum microphone. But that's when I go after using a Neumann for that kick drum sound in particular. I'll use the 80, that 85 because they're fucking $1,000 cheaper than an 84, and I like the way that they sound. This ceramic holder here, instead of using a brass capsule.
Exactly. There are 3 reasons actually for it. If you remember vintage microphones where you have the brass capsules, you bring them from the cold truck into the studio, or a singer is singing with a lot of moisture for a longer time, you experience some of this sizzling noise, and that's because brass is an electric leader. Yep. So you basically connect the 2 membranes with each other. In ceramic is an isolator, that doesn't happen.
Okay.
B, ceramic is stiffer than brass.
Okay.
So it doesn't change over time. It doesn't corrode, A.
Yep.
Yeah, so it stays as it is for the next 50 years. Secondly, we don't need those 12 or 14 screws to tighten it correctly, because ceramic is such a stiff material that we can get the same equal tightening with the 3 screws instead of having then 12 or 14 screws.
Oh, that's awesome. So these 3 screws handle the tensioning.
Yeah.
That's rad. And you can see here that there's is this a rubber isolator?
Exactly. And at the end of the day, you now have, this is the single membrane one, so there's no second membrane on this one.
Yes.
So this is basically the one that's coming in the OC80.
Okay.
Right? So it's not a dual, it's a single.
Yep.
But in a dual, you would have a second membrane at the rear side. And the big advantage of that design is that we get back to the, let's call it, rather vintage capsule design and sound, because we have the same volume, we have the same specific weight. If you look at the other Viennese company and the recent 414s, you would see all the nylon capsules in there.
Yeah.
And the problem there is they're so lightweight that with a loud signal, not only the membrane moves, but the whole capsule moves, which isn't what you want. No. You need a certain weight. And brass gives you the weight, but the ceramic gives you the same weight as well. So we really had a lot of experience in the house, because we even brought the 87-year-old Conrad Wolf, who designed the CK12 capsule. Oh, and he was on board with designing this capsule.
That's amazing. So, that I just learned something, for the folks at home. So what you're saying is that what's actually important, everybody talks about the brass capsule, and one, it's a striking feature to look at, and it looks great compared to the nylon capsule. But what's actually important is the weight that it provides around the capsule.
The specific weight of the material, and hence the weight of the capsule, that it's staying where it needs to stay in a loud environment.
Yes.
And then, of course, all what other things I mentioned, like over time corrosion, over time stability. Because, it's always interesting. I always love to tell this story because people refer to certain mics as unique, great sound. And I was part of the team when the C12 VR was designed. Okay. Right? And it was the biggest important thing that it sounds the same as the old vintage C12, right? So what did we do? Listen to microphones. We brought in over the globe 50 C12s from famous producers like Quincy Jones, like Peter Wolf. We had to insure them because the people were afraid of transporting the mics and so on and so forth. And we got 50 vintage mics in and none of them sounded the same. So which one should we now match?
Which one did you go with?
Well, at the end of the day, you had to decide for an average where you thought this was the original, what the people were referring to. But bear in mind, each of these 50 people refers to his mic as the one.
The one, yep.
Yeah. And that's the same with every of our users. And that's what perfectly comes in with what you stated before. We are people who believe we are innovative,
yep,
but think very vintage.
Yeah,
and then the vintage is even our own sound we got used to.
Exactly.
Because we're using that mic since 30 years, and that's the one, and that's how the next one should sound, but it didn't sound in the beginning.
Well, and that's why I think that I gravitate towards your guys' product so much compared to the other. I mean, let's be brutally honest for the people on the internet. People, when you get to a point in this industry, people will send you microphones to try out because they're interested in your opinion, and that's where we got. You wanted to hear what I was, thinking of these microphones, and as soon as I heard them, like, they have never left my workflow. Where there's microphones that I hear and I'm instantly like, oh, that's cool. But a lot of microphones that are made nowadays, they're what I consider trashy in the high end. They do this thing in the high end where they're trying to bring it forward in a way that makes it sound exciting and makes their mic sound vibrant. But what ends up happening is it sounds crunchy to me. And your microphones don't do that, They sound open and airy, but that 3 to 7K range always sounds articulate and delicate, but never overbearing and shitty.
But that's another thing, and I think you're right, And that I mentioned the example before, because at the end of the day, we shouldn't try to redesign stuff people are used to, because you can't, because everybody's used to something different. What we try to do is we try to achieve with experimenting with new materials, but following traditional rules, creating something new that sounds good. Good is a very subjective statement.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned airy. For example, every of our microphones is called OC or OD.
Okay.
Why? Because we try to follow, we call it OAT, OAT, so like open acoustic technology. Why? We all know the perfect microphone would have no housing. The perfect microphone would look like this.
Yes.
Right? Nobody in a free field. So what we try to do, we try to recreate as good as possible a free field acoustic in every microphone. We talked about these guys, right? It's not only that the capsules are not sitting on top of the electronics like soldered to it, but it's suspended internally with a very large cage, which is open all over the place, right? So we try to give it as most free field as possible. And now the little things make the difference. Every microphone has electronics in the bottom, right? So if you look at that, you would have a reflection from the body where the electronic sits to the capsule. What is it, about 2.5 centimeters? So that would cause reflections in the way of 6.5 kilohertz. Now, if you look at this microphone, you see at the bottom, there is a diffuser.
Oh, yep, I see it.
Can you see that?
I do.
So this is not a hard body, but there is like a mesh grill at the bottom, leading the reflections to the body and not back to the capsule.
So you literally have a diffuser that opens up below this capsule
Exactly.
specifically to help the region that I was just talking about.
Exactly.
Other microphones sounding shitty in. So, this diffuser, you said is tuned to 6.5 kilohertz, and that harsh 7K that's coming through a bunch of other, I mean, there's a reason why these microphones sound great. And I think the more and more I'm spending with you, I can tell it's because you guys care.
We do.
And that's awesome to see, man.
And you see it in the handheld.
Yep.
Why is the capsule sitting so far away from the body?
Because it's suspended, right?
It's suspended and it gives little reflections to the capsule because we try to give it even around the capsule an open space.
Oh, interesting.
Again, open as possible. Can you do a free field in a handheld? You can't, but that's the best you can.
So how does the open concept work in something like this?
Because it's also opened on the rear side of here, but obviously we only have the openness on all the sides and on the top. We couldn't do it on the bottom because then you don't have a pencil mic anymore.
Absolutely.
But that's also why this is not called OC but CC.
CC. Okay.
OC stands for open condenser.
Okay.
OD for open dynamics. So everywhere we have the OC and OD, we try to imitate the best free field acoustic you can have.
Okay. And then CC, does that stand for closed condenser then?
Yes.
Okay, very cool. Well, thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much.